Good evening and welcome to the Daily Report. On this Wednesday, the nation mourns the death of 3 more lives as protests continue across the country. It's halfway through the week and we have a comprehensive bulletin prepared by our reporters stationed within the 47 counties. We will also be looking at the cash cow, that is YouTube. We have an IP attorney, we have a digital analyst, and we also have a YouTuber in studio. My name is Hibak Saeed.
And my name is Stanley Nyerungita. Sad indeed is the day. We'll cut through the clutter and clarify the facts. We will separate the facts from fiction and chaff from the grain. But before all that, let's have the top stories tonight. Government says that following a thorough assessment of the security situation, the Minister of Education has received advice indicating that it is now safe to resume learning activities in Nairobi, Mombasa and Kisumu counties.
Tayari wameanza kuogopa. Mtoto akisikia maandamano yakitajwa anahofia kwenda skuli.
And several towns across the country remain largely deserted after Azimio la Umoja planned demonstrations to protest against the high cost of living.
Wametuua, wametupiga marisasi, wametupiga matia gas, wamekataa ya kwamba tuziingia CBD tukafanya maandamano ya amani.
This as the president and his deputy say that there will be no sharing of power.
Plus, motivated by the hope of earning a better living, many Kenyan youth are venturing into new fields. And for some, this gamble appears to be paying off. Tonight on our special piece, we tell you about one youth changing the digital media landscape. Good evening, Catherine Smole is on the sign language interpretation. On Wednesday, Kenya's capital, Nairobi, presented a deserted appearance as Azimio la Umoja had issued warnings of leading protests against the high cost of living in the city.
In response to the anticipated demonstrations, many shops remained closed and heavy security patrols were visible across the city.
However, in defiance of the potential consequences and disruptions, a courageous section of the business community decided to carry on with operations as usual.
Moige Williams set up camp at the Central Business District and gives us more details to that.
Tomboya Street, less traffic or even human flow, minimal activities. This was the situation on one of the most busy, bustling streets of the country's capital. One will even mistake the day to be a Sunday. A majority of business doors remained closed with large padlocks on them as security officers strolled up and down the streets. During last week's Azimio called protests, there were incidents of unknown individuals raiding business premises that were believed to be participating in demonstrations. Despite the risk involved, a courageous group of business owners decided to keep their doors open during this challenging time. Among them is Isaac Mutahi, who runs a general shop selling electrical goods along Moi Avenue. Mutahi says the decision to run his business on such a day, even amidst fears of his shop being vandalized during the protest, was driven by the pressing financial needs he had to meet, explaining that the urgency to address his financial obligations outweighs any other fears he had above potential damage to his shop.
Nimefungua biashara leo juu kuna bills nataka kulipa na nategemewa kwa nyumba, niko na mambo mingi nataka kufanya, nataka kulipa rent, nataka kulipa school fees.
As a husband and a father, Mutahi states that earlier closure of his business during previous protest has largely affected his meager income, and it gets worse as he is the sole breadwinner of his family.
Sasa kufuga kazi ndio tunaona inatuharibia biashara.
Along Tomboya, Amos Kamo is running his cyber cafe, insisting he can't close his daily earning due to protest, insisting the cost of living is a burden which cannot grant him the luxury to stay a day off without eking out a living from his printing and internet business.
Tusipofanya kazi, tunaendelea kujifinyiria sisi wenyewe kuona kwamba gharama ya maisha itaenda juu kwa sababu hatufanyi kazi. Lakini tukiamua tufanye kazi, mambo hapo mbeleni itajifungulia yenyewe na ni zamu yako utoke ufanye kazi.
For Mutahi, Amos and a significant number of Nairobi residents we engaged with, there was one unified and emphatic call directed towards both the government and the opposition. Their message was clear and unwavering, urging both parties to prioritize the well-being of the people and the nation above all else.
And the clarion call for each and every citizen is there be some political agreements.
Tumechagua wabunge, tumechagua magavana, tumechagua rais, wao wape nafasi waende waongee.
The politicians, they should just sit down with the opposition and talk.
Peace, order and tranquility was the order of the day at the country's capital, Nairobi. But all these courtesy to a heavy presence of police. But will this be the same case Thursday? It is a wait-and-see situation. Moige William, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Moige William, for that story. Now, President William Ruto has told Azimio leader Raila Odinga that protests would not bring down the prices of essential commodities like maize flour.
Now, while on a development tour, the president was accompanied by his deputy, Rigathi Gachagua, who emphasized that the government will strongly oppose any attempts by the opponents to force a political handshake.
Our reporter Chichi Josephine with the details.
Speaking in Kericho, President William Ruto discouraged the use of protest and suffrages as a means to address the rising cost of living. Instead, he encouraged Kenyans to focus on agricultural activities to mitigate the cost of maize flour.
Wale tulishindana na wao walishindwa na mambo ya kupunguza gharama ya maisha. Wakati tumechukua bei ya unga ilikuwa 240, hawakufanya maandamano. Saa hizi imefika 200, wanafanya maandamano wakitafuta ukweli ama ni utapeli. Ni ukweli ama ukora wanapanga. Tayari miezi miwili chakula itatoka shambani, tutaelekea kupunguza gharama ya maisha. Ni kweli ama si kweli?
He expressed his willingness to engage in discussions that would improve the lives of Kenyans, but ruled out a handshake, blaming it for the ongoing economic crisis in the country.
Mimi nataka niwaambie wale wanatuletea fujo, tafadhali, kama mko na matatizo, kuna njia ya kisheria ya kuendelea. Tulikubaliana na wao ya kwamba tuongee. Sijui kama tunaelewana. Wakawacha mambo ya kuongea, wakaenda kufanya vita.
The president emphasized that it is the responsibility of Kenyans to safeguard the nation from violence and chaos.
We must protect this country, and the police must be firm on hooligans, on criminals, on people who want to destroy other people's business.
Nataka niwaulize kwa heshima makasisi wetu. In the same breath that you condemn the police, we want to hear you condemn the violence being meted out on innocent Kenyans by the perpetrators of violence and bloodshed in Nairobi and in other towns in this country.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua reaffirmed the government's commitment to resist any power-sharing arrangements allegedly orchestrated by opponents. He pledged to protect the victory of Kenya Kwanza in the August 9th, 2022 general elections.
Sasa wajue, huyu rais wetu ni chuma ya zamani. Ni chuma ya zamani, si chuma ya zamani. Na mimi niko hapo, nikae hapo. Sasa mimi sina kazi ingine, rais aendelee na mambo ya uchumi, na mimi nimeweka mitego kila pahali. Wakijaribu kuja, mimi na deal na hawa. Tumekubaliana?
Gachagua asserting that they had fairly and squarely defeated Azimio leader Raila Odinga in the previous year's polls.
Kama hawa wanasikia wako na umaarufu, wangoje waonane na wewe mwaka wa 2027. Lakini kwa wakati huu kiongozi wa Kenya ni mmoja, anaitwa nani?
Gachagua vowed to quash any attempt by Azimio to seek a political handshake with the government.
Wamezoea kuja kwa serikali kupitia juu ya fujo. Sasa wajue, huyu rais wetu ni chuma ya zamani.
During the launch of the Kimogo Water project, he promised to take decisive action against those who threaten the country's peace, working closely with the other leaders to safeguard the nation's stability.
Tutalinda taifa letu. Tutalinda demokrasia yetu, na siasa yetu haitakuwa na vita, haitakuwa ya kuharibu mali, haitakuwa ya kuharibu barabara. Itakuwa ni siasa bila chuki na bila vita.
Harambee!
Chichi Josephine, TV47.
Thank you for that, Chichi Josephine. And meanwhile, learning will resume in all schools starting Thursday after short hiatus following the Azimio One Kenya anti-government protests.
The government now says it has undertaken adequate measures to ensure safety of learners, and as our reporter Andrin Kilemi now reports, education shareholders are worried the education calendar could be disrupted as seen in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic.
In a joint statement to newsrooms Wednesday evening, Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki and his education counterpart Ezekiel Machogu ordered that schools reopen Thursday 20th after an unprecedented hiatus following the planned Azimio demos. The regular anti-government protests have now elicited mixed reactions among education stakeholders who fear the school calendar could be disrupted, as seen in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Kumbuka kwamba pana ilani kwetu kama walimu kutoka kwa serikali hiyo kwamba tusiongeze muda wa wanafunzi kusoma. Tulikuwa tunazungumzia nayo juzi. Pana ilani ya kwamba tusiwe na masomo wakati wa likizo. Hivi vipindi vyote tunavyopoteza tutavipata lini?
Today, most schools, especially those in Nairobi, Mombasa and Kisumu counties, remained shut as the government took precautionary measures to ensure safety of school-going children.
Na walimu wetu, walimu pia wengine na wale ambao wanatoka mbali walikosa kufika kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa usafiri.
In Kisii County, schools located near the town remained closed, while those in the rural areas continued with their normal school program. In Turkana and Bungoma counties, learners did not feel the effect of Wednesday maandamano as learning proceeded as usual.
Sisi tunaendelea kama kawaida hapa shuleni. Sisi kama walimu tunaomba tu pande zote mbili zikuje pamoja, zikae, zielewane, alafu tukue na amani.
Last week, pupils of Kihombweni Primary School in Kangemi fainted after they were allegedly tear-gassed by anti-riot police officers who were dispersing protesters. Andrin Kilemi, TV 47.
Thank you, Andrin Kilemi, for that story. The Azimio Coalition has declared nationwide demonstrations will continue on Thursday and Friday after a day of clashes between Azimio supporters and the police in Nairobi's Kibera,
Mathare and Kamukunji estates. Now, Azimio leaders who held the day a success were no show in the demonstrations, among them Azimio coalition leader who was expected in his Kibra bucket, where youths engaged police in running battles for the better part of the day. And as our senior political affairs reporter Apollo Kamau reports, Azimio has announced new venues for the demonstrations.
Azimio coalition leader Raila Odinga's Kibra backyard was a highlight of Wednesday's protests in the nation's capital, as stone-throwing youths faced off with police who are blocking their access to Gong Road and Joseph Kang'ethe grounds, where Odinga was expected to address his supporters. The Kibra siege that started at 10 o'clock and late into the day saw angry youth confront the police, while the police pushed them back with tear gas, turning the Woodley estate into a battle zone. Odinga and fellow Azimio leaders issuing statements while physically missing from the chaos. A police officer was injured by one of the stones, with police making several arrests and asking for more reinforcements to contain the daring mob. This as the government defended police actions during demos after criticism by Western envoys. In Mathare, police made several arrests while pushing back youth who threw stones and kept a distance. Azimio leaders have termed Wednesday's demos, which were called off by Odinga at 5 p.m. successful, while telling their supporters to recharge ahead of more demos on Thursday and Friday in what will be more days of confrontation with police and lead to business losses due to the shutdown caused by the demos. In a statement issued by Azimio Principal Martha Karua, Azimio has designated Huruma Grounds, Kangemi Grounds and Central Park in Nairobi CBD as assembly points, setting the stage for more confrontation with the police amid fatigue on the cost of demos by Kenyans who are struggling to make ends meet. This is how it's been since 10 o'clock Wednesday morning. Tit for tat between police and protesters. Police pushing them back, them fighting back, a tit-for-tat, stones and tear gas. That's what marked Maandamano Wednesday. Apol Kamau, TV47 in Kibra.
Right, our senior political affairs reporter there, Apollo Kamau. Quite brave, by the way, hanging out there with all that particular danger. It was quite a day.
And it's usually such a challenge, especially for reporters who have to be at the center of chaos.
And speaking of chaos, we really need to have peace. And speaking of which, the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, that is KCCB, has called on for a resumption of the bipartisan talks so as to cool down the political temperatures witnessed in different parts of the country.
Speaking in Nairobi today, the bishops have urged the Azimio la Umoja principal, Raila Odinga, to suspend the ongoing demonstrations and embrace dialogue with President William Ruto so as to protect lives as Kenyans and the economy of Kenyans. And the economy of the country is deteriorating.
Take a look.
On June 27, 2023, when the Azimio la Umoja called off their participation in the bipartisan talks, it was clear that the streets could be Azimio's only choice. 3 weeks later, the call from the opposition has been responded to, but this time by religious leaders.
Almighty God and Father,
in their call to both the opposition and the government, the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops has called on for a resumption of the suspended talks so as to restore calm in the country.
We have made all efforts to appeal to both the president and the leader of opposition to this peaceful way to end the seeming standoff. Specifically, we have appealed to Azimio la Umoja to seek alternatives that would not hold the entire country hostage and lend itself to violence and destruction.
Sending their message of peace to Kenyans, the religious leaders have called on Kenyans not to fuel violence among themselves during the ongoing protests. Their fathers said that the 3-day anti-government protests will cripple the economy of the country and create more harm than its intended benefits.
There is no justifiable reason whatsoever to be violent. We know that engaging in peaceful protests and demonstrations allows individuals to express their grievances and concerns without causing harm to themselves and others. After the experience in our previous demonstrations, we are calling the leaders and the country to embrace non-violent ways of demanding our needs.
On his side, Nyeri Archbishop Anton Muheria has condemned individuals taking advantage of the demonstrations to vandalize properties. The Archbishop has further condemned police officers for exerting excess pressure to protesters, calling it an act against humanity. The bishops have also expressed a need for a repeal of the Finance Act 2023 so as to cushion Kenyans from the high cost of living.
We, therefore, ask the President to repeal the Finance Act and institute a process that will seek to achieve the same goals within the context of the current economic context.
Jackson Chacha, TV47.
Jackson Chacha on that bit. Now, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition has condemned what they termed as arrests and abduction of Azimio leaders.
Now, in a statement to newsrooms, Co-Principal Martha Karua threatened to take legal action against the police. This comes as Foreign Affairs says Dr. Alfred Mutua blasted the United Nations Human Rights Office over comments on anti-government protests.
George Maringa reports.
On the first day of the 3-day promised demonstrations by Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition, Kenyans woke up to news of alleged arrests and or abductions of a section of leaders allied to Azimio. The coalition's co-principal Martha Karua, in a statement, alleged that Embakasi East MP Babu Owino was arrested by police and was being held incommunicado, and his whereabouts remained unknown. The statement further proceeded to mention that Kilifi MP Ken Chonga and Speaker of Kilifi County Assembly Teddy Mwambire were arrested and detained in an unknown place. Nairobi, Karua further alleges that in Nairobi, Wilfred Odalo, MCA for Mabatini, Redson Onyango, MCA for Ngai Ward, and Eric Otieno and Anthony Otsula were arrested. Eric and Anthony work as budget officers in Nairobi County Assembly. Maurice Ogeta and Dennis Onyango, who are close associates of Azimio leader Raila Odinga, were also arrested and or abducted. Karua says the abductions were meant to paralyze Azimio and its top leaders. In another statement, the Azimio leadership noted, quote, with tremendous satisfaction of the extremely successful day one of the third wave of Maandamano across the country.
The economy and the people of Kenya.
The statements by Azimio came as Foreign Affairs CS Dr. Alfred Mutua termed as, quote, unfortunate the remarks by the UN Human Rights Office.
You know, that is bad manners for an organization of such stature. That is really a high level of inefficiency and unprofessional work, because they need to do their own research before they come out issuing letters and statements that are basically full of misinformation.
He said the ministry has protested to the spokesperson of the UN agency.
This statement was not only inaccurate but misleading and appeared to have been written in support of a propaganda campaign by people opposed to the democratic will of the people. The ministry has protested to the office of the spokesperson on his unsubstantiated statement. We will be engaging through appropriate channels to ensure that the international community is not sucked into conspiracies that are aimed at destabilizing our nations.
The protests are scheduled to continue on Thursday and Friday. George Maringa, TV47, Nairobi.
Right, thank you for that, George Maringa. Now into the wonderful world of sports. Tanzanian boxer Karim Mtukazi Mandonga has arrived in Kenya for his highly anticipated rematch against Kenya's Daniel Wanyonyi at the Sarit Expo Center in Nairobi on July 22nd.
In his classic fashion, Mandonga has threatened to unleash his latest fist strike, known as Kinguki, to defeat Wanyonyi. Wanyonyi lost to Mandonga on TKO in the 5th round on January 14th. Between
This is a big boxing fight. It's going to be the biggest boxing fight of the year. And logistical planning is underway. Mandonga arrives tomorrow evening. We have a fight-week schedule which are going to avail to the public.
Bwana, namshukuru Mwenyezi Mungu, kwanza amenijalia nimefika Kenya salama na nimekuja niko vizuri na najisikia raha Kenya kama nyumbani sasa, kwa sababu pia Tanzania naweza kusema kwa mama, Kenya kwa baba. Yeah.
Na hii sio mara ya kwanza unarejea tena hapa nchini Kenya, pigano la pili dhidi ya Wanyonyi. Maandalizi yako yamekuwaje na unajihisi vipi, hali ya utimamu wa mwili kuelekea pambano la siku ya Jumamosi?
Mimi niko vizuri, tumejiandaa vizuri na nimejipanga vizuri. Kawaida wanasema siku zote, yani ukisema tunaandaa vita, basi ujue na wewe ujipange na timu yako. Kwa hiyo mimi na uhakika kabisa kwa uwezo wa Mwenyezi Mungu niko safi, na huyu Wanyonyi lazima tumpige tu. Kivovote vile anataka anapigwa, ataki anapigwa. Kwa sababu tumeletea slogan mpya. Mara kwanza tumeletea sugunyo. Sasa hivi tumeletea kuna ngumi imetoka Urusi inaitwa Kinguki. Kitu kinachosimika huwa akirudi nyuma kinakwenda mbele tu.
Right. I don't know if you watched the first bout of his fight.
Well, I'm assuming in boxing, as one does typically in boxing, I'm sure he thrashed
well, okay,
properly.
you'll definitely. And speak of which, by the way, now the rematch fight between popular Tanzanian boxer Karim Mtukazi Mandonga and Kenyan middleweight Daniel Wanyonyi set July 22nd has landed Betika Betting Firm as their sponsor in a deal worth, get this, 1.5 million Kenyan shillings.
The fight, which is promoted by Maurice Odera of Ultra Fight Series Promotion, will go down on July 22nd at Sarit Expo Center in the capital, Nairobi.
This is a big boxing fight. It's going to be the biggest boxing fight of the year. And logistical planning is underway. Mandonga arrives tomorrow evening. We have a 5-week schedule which are going to avail to the public via social media.
The event today was for us to issue the check showing our support to both the promoter and the fight itself. And it is important more so to us because we have made a commitment to diversify our involvement in sports. I mean, we've recently seen us sponsoring motorsports in the just concluded WRC. We do sponsor the Betika Rallycross series. We're very heavily involved in football. We also sponsor other types of sports. That is,
niko tayari kwa hilo pigano la Sato pale Sato Center tarehe 22, marudiano baina yangu na Mandonga. Tunashukuru sana Saufa vile tuko hapa hivi, tuko pamoja hata na promoter na tushaambiwa kila kitu iko sawa, so unakuwa na morali, unafanya ukijua kuna kitu, unajua hii ni kazi, unajua kazi bila malipo si kazi tena, na utamu wa kazi ni pesa.
They can expect tight security even as they come in. Perfect sitting arrangement, just ensuring that everybody is comfortable, that everybody from where they're seated is able to see the ring and the ongoing matches.
Now from the boxing ring, now the Kenya team to the Youth Commonwealth Games Girls Rugby has its work cut out as they face some of the best rugby nations in the round robin tournament in Trinidad and Tobago.
The team reported to camp on Wednesday, training on defense and sharpness. Coach Sarah Otieno, who is also the rugby development officer at Kenya Rugby Union, held a blowout and a skill session to assess the 18 players in camp. Kenya will face the likes of Canada, Australia and Fiji.
Canada is playing, and I've seen who won the. I mean, Canada finished first, then there was Australia, then Fiji. So if you look at Australia and Fiji and how Canada is playing, they are playing a fast game. So that is what I'm actually working on. So my session here is basically short, sharp and sweet, so that we are able to get and to work and execute what it is that we need to do. Because if you look at how Canada is playing, they're throwing the ball very fast and they're running into the spaces. So on the other side, what I'm trying to work on also, I'm also trying to work on the defense pattern, whereby like as time goes by, we'll be trying to work on the defense pattern. So basically we're trying to be working on the pods.
Right, let's cross over to Meru County, where it will host the 10th edition of the Kenya Inter-County Sports and Cultural Association Games, that is Kikoska.
The event will be held from August 20th to 26th and will consist of over 20 sports. Kikosa Chairman John Angawa has said Baringo and Kwale County have confirmed participation and are still in talks with Garissa and Isiolo making their debuts.
1 year. And in Meru County, we are thrilled that we shall be the people or the county to host Kikoska Games from 20th to 26th next month, August 2013. I think this early chance to welcome all the county's staff that have registered to participate in these Kikoska Games. I know it is a game, games that will actually make sure that all the staff, all the county staffs in or over 40 counties that will be in Meru to participate in various games. We are so glad that the Kisumu County, which actually has given us the man today, the governor for Meru, we are so happy that we have received and we can assure the counties that Meru is happy.
Kikoska helps us in bringing national cohesion and unity. When we all interact as staffs, regardless of where we come from, regardless of our religious affiliations, regardless of our political affiliations, we work as a team. We network, we interact, and we become one nation. So it is very, very important for us. Cultural exchange also is done through our Kikoska games.
Very interesting in the world of sports. Inter-county games, Stanley.
Well, it is going to be happening in Meru. Na si stories za Jaba.
Of course, of course. We're going to be going to our trio, a panelist of an attorney, a YouTuber, and even a digital analyst. We're going to be making sure that we delve into the world of YouTube.